Hey guys, and welcome back to Narcissus. This is where we kind of left off, is after we found out that our little buddy from the hospital was discharged for the second time. Well, for her. So, let's just jump right back in. Nightfall, after lights out. Bored of reading manga, as usual, I wandered through the darkened hospital. The usual lounge, now pitch dark from the absence of light. That was where I found her. Hey, so you're still here? Yeah. What's up? Not feeling well again? Not really, was all she said as she stared at the window. So her discharge had been postponed after all. No one knew when the next chance would come, but it would probably be weeks from now, not days. Hey, could it be that you feigned illness today? No, that probably wasn't the right way to put it. See, you couldn't say that we weren't sick all the time. What I'm saying is, you didn't want to leave the hospital, did you? I don't know what you're talking about. Because there's no afterwards for you now. But there was no answer to my question in her silence. She had asked me so many times before about where I wanted to die, and it had always been that I didn't know yet, and that she didn't want to die at home or here on floor 7. So you have no other place to go after all. And what of it? No, nothing. This familiar lounge, flooded in darkness. Her familiar stance, looking out the window without so much as acknowledging my existence. This place we call the hospital, and its extinguished lights, in spite of the fact that it was only 11 p.m. or so. This was the tangent point between what was normal and what was not. On top of that, we were inhabitants of floor 7, bereft of any choice save one, death on floor 7, or death at home. The outside world that she was staring at from the pitch-black height of floor 7, the normal world. The buildings and homes were still radiant with light, and the streets overflowed with people going home. And although my awareness of it was still vague, I was already an inhabitant of floor 7, already an abnormal existence. There was no longer any way for me to go back to that other world, was there now? My time is at a standstill. I spent so many seasons, so many white overcast skies, without the want or need to converse with anybody. At first, I would look down at the healthy kids going to school and the people walking back and forth on the streets. And when I got tired of that, I always watched TV. Nothing else to do. Nothing else I could do. Even when there was snow outside the window, it was always bright and sunny inside the TV screen. Oh, dream world, stretching out before my eyes without heat, without cold, without pain. I sought comfort from my imagination, and so I amassed a huge knowledge base. Meaningless trivia upon meaningless trivia, over and over. And before I knew it, nothing that appeared on TV seemed real anymore. And in a quick succession, it also happened to books, games, and then my family. Finally, I was unable to view myself as anything real, as if I were staring at scenes of another person's life. And that's why I was not surprised, even when they transferred me to floor 7. If I but closed my eyes, the world would always vanish. So I thought I'd be fine, and I did as I thought. And soon enough, my second discharge from the hospital. By the time of my next admission, I'd probably be too weak to stand by myself. I found my own self, the one who couldn't do anything, even though she knew this to be pitiful. I found my own self, the one who had no destination, to be ridiculous. My time at a standstill, my heart at a standstill, my chest standing still with huge scars. I'd lived for 22 years now, and I found myself utterly helpless. January 19th, 2005, floor 7. A few days after that, the overhanging clouds had cleared up, and an endless, endless winter sky was in their place. Oddly enough, my father had come to visit, a difficult expression on his face the entire time, but he was saying something or other about my insurance, and at the time his eyes were not unhappy at all. I have to talk to the doctors for a bit. Saying this, my father strode down the corridor, toward that dim conference room where this had all begun, or so it seemed. My hospital room was now empty. Having nothing to do now, I reached for the weekly magazines that they'd brought at the stands for me, or that they bought at the stands for me. And accompanying them, just as ever, there were fruits and drinks as get-well gifts. And to one side of the basket that the fruits were piled in, right in front of the melons that I so hated, what I saw was a set of car keys. The keys shone silver. These were the keys to my father's pride and joy. That, coupe, I think? I don't know. The coupe he'd sweated over from the upholstery on outwards. The coupe that I'd asked to borrow a long time ago. And I'd been told no without a single second's delay. Sorry. I'm all like crying again, and I got a little tripped up over that word. So, let's try this again. And my still unused driver's license in the breast pocket of my pajamas. Even after it had lost its chance for use that day, it remained with me, waiting, as if that were its proof of life. In silence, I grabbed the keys. It happened as if on impulse. I had no idea what my motives were either. I just seized them without a second thought, and as if I were looking at a screen on TV, and the few days' worth of meds that I'd been dispensed. I stuffed those into a bag and I headed down the corridor. I snuck past the nurse's station and quickly strode towards the elevators, a bag in my right hand, the keys in my left, the long neglected driver's license in my breast pocket, in front of the lounge. And the next thing I saw was the girl sitting there watching TV as per usual, staring blankly and boredly at that screen, sitting on a little foldable chair. Hey, is that show any good? Does it look that way to you? No, not at all. The all too expected exchange. Her eyes looked as far away as they always had. Well then, shall we go together? What? I continued talking as I showed her the keys in my hand. See, I don't want it to be at home. And I don't want it to be on floor 7 either. Well then. Oh, whoops, well then, shall we go together? Okay. With that, she stood up from her chair. Her hair swayed with her and grazed the tip of my nose. And then she too stuffed a few days' worth of meds in a bag, and we made to leave floor 7 together. I switched off that boring TV. The grating laughter of the MC was forever obliterated. Both of us in pajamas, clad, boarded. Let me try that again. Both of us in pajamas, clad, boarded the elevator, headed down from this top floor down to floor 1. At floor 1, we headed not for the ER entrance, but for the outpatient client entrance, or clinic's entrance, whoops. The cold winter air struck away at our faces, all the more strong in a wide open space like the parking lot. The two of us wandered around the spacious field, looking about ourselves with unease, and after a little while, we came across my father's car. The silver coupe. My father's pride and joy, impeccably maintained. I immediately inserted the key and opened the door. Go ahead, get in. Very well. I sank into the driver's seat. She was in the passenger seat, but she was so short that she'd have a hard time seeing the road. I turned the key into ignition and stepped lightly on the accelerator, just as I'd learned during training. Reassuring engine noises filtered into the cabin. I released the handbrake and then applied the clutch. Now, we could go anywhere. That was our plan. All right, let's go. Okay. She nodded slightly. Instead of replying, I shifted into second gear, and the car accelerated smoothly. Unused to the clutch, and swerving slightly, I advanced slowly. We're swerving. Yeah, it's my first time in a car. Well, it's the first time since I got my license that I've driven a car. I see. The exit to the parking lot was now in view, and the largest road beyond it without traffic lights. I turned onto it. The sound of honking car horns, those were directed at me as I cut into the road. The silver coupe complained, but did not stop as I worked the unfamiliar clutch and stiff gearbox. I must really have rubbed the other drivers the wrong way, as the honking of horns did not seem likely to cease. But I just continued to drive without caring much. None of it quite seemed real at all. Hey! What is it? Oh wait, this is him, whoops. Are you scared? Do you want me to be? No, not really. Still before noon, the high-flying sun, the skies of January above and beyond the windshield, skies so blue that they seemed almost in mourning. We had no destination. On that cold day with an alien clutch and a swerving car. On that day when we drove onto the highway in our pajamas. On that very day of winter. January 19, 2005. Ibaraki, Mito Highway. Around when that blazing high sun had changed into a dusky orange, we were continuing to drive, just driving in any direction at random, and in a place that I did not recognize. We're stopping for a bit. Okay. I finally brought the car to a halt. A roadside somewhere, far away from civilization, no traffic anywhere to be seen, lonely. Having stopped this car in this nameless place, I started inspecting around the cabin. If there was anything useful here, we just run off without any preparation at all, but there was something troubling leaping out at me. With that in mind, I first scoured the dashboard. There's nothing here at all. A couple hundred yen, cluttered around the gear stick, a few manga volumes, and a cheap disposable camera. It wasn't as if we had a destination, but the onboard GPS system looked broken. And I only had about 8,000 yen on me. That was all the money I had lying around when I up and left. So I combined it with the pocket change I'd found. I only had 9,000 yen or so. Of course, I hadn't really expected that there'd be anything in the car anyway, but this lack of money presented a problem. It wouldn't be possible for us to find lodging on this budget, and it didn't seem likely that this girl would have any money on her either. Is something the matter? No, it's nothing. Whatever. I'd half expected this from the beginning. It wasn't as if I'd thought this through enough to have things like a plan or a schedule. I just wanted to get out, right then and there. I did not want to stay where I was. Underneath the curtain of twilight, I started up the silver coupe again. Hey, are you hungry? I asked her as I drove along. Come to think of it, she hadn't eaten anything since morning. Want to stop at a convenience store or something? No. Hey, don't be like that. And the food's much better than anything up on floor 7. She did not respond to me. Instead, she looked straight down at the pink pajamas she was wearing. Oh yeah, that's right. I looked down at my own clothing. Sure enough, in these pajamas we'd be conspicuous no matter where we went. Not that we weren't conspicuous right now. In any case, we'd have to do something about them. And having made my decision, I steered back towards civilization. After a little more driving, we'd arrived in a place whose name I did not know. Probably somewhere close to a rail station. Certainly enough people around for it to be the case. There's gotta be one around here somewhere. I looked around anxiously as I drove. My back pitched a little forward, not touching the seat. Ah, there one is. At last, a coin laundromat. It looked pretty run down from the outside, on the first floor of a small, forlorn building. This was as good a place as any. I stopped the car not far from the entrance to this place. Alright, I'll be back in a second. Leaving her and her confused face in the car, I walked into the laundromat. My nose was filled with the smell of bleach and detergent the moment the automatic doors opened. The exterior of the laundromat had told no lie. The washers and dryers were old and run down as well. There's nobody here. The empty laundromat swallowed whole my murmured words. Only a single dryer was in operation, making its characteristic humming noises. I immediately walked to that machine and checked its timer. It looked like it would operate for 30 minutes on 200 yen, and only 5 minutes had elapsed so far. Whoever it was had probably gone elsewhere to kill some time. Ruminating over this, I looked around just one more time to reassure myself that no one was around. Then, satisfied that I was all alone, I put my hand on the door handle of that drying machine, and I abruptly opened it. Its door opened during operation. The dryer spun down to a halt. I pulled out a clump of half-dry clothes, ignoring the heat and the humidity. And after looking around once more to make sure no one was around, I walked out of the laundromat just like that. Oh. She sounded slightly surprised when she saw my arms were full of clothing, but I threw the clothes in the back seat without a word. Alright, let's go. I looked back at the bundle of clothes with the steering wheel in one hand. Gaudy-looking sweaters and jeans and almost nothing else, all in pretty big sizes at that. All still wet, but the car's heating would dry them out soon. Change into whatever you like later. She didn't react much to those words either. She just looked back at the pile of clothes. Look, we had no choice. I know. Well, obviously, it wasn't as if I liked doing this kind of thing. And it wasn't as if there was anything I was saving that money for. It was just that, given the amount we had, it would be very difficult to buy new clothes. And I am all out of time for this episode, guys. So I really hope that you've enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up down below. And I will see you guys in the next video. So, bye-bye!